7A3, no?
We are beginning at the bottom of 7, Zayin Amud Aleph, which is 7A4. We are on the two dots right at the bottom. Okay? So the Mishnah says, Umatanot le'evunim, and gifts to the poor. Is this mine? Yes, this one's mine. Umatanot le'evunim, gifts to the poor. Tani, Rav Yosef taught, Mishlach manot ish l're'eu. The pasuk says that the Jewish people would give mishlach manot ish l're'eu. Let's look at the pasuk in the inside column. The pasuk says, Bayami kayamim b'asher nachu bahem, like the days that they rested Yehudim me'oivim from the enemies, v'achodesh, and the month asher nefach lehem yagon l'simcha, that turned for them from yagon, from mourning, from anguish to simcha, to joy, u'me'evel, and from mourning liyom tov, to a holiday, lasot otam yimei mishteh, to make them days of celebration, of feasting, of simcha, mishloach manot ish l're'eu, the sending of gifts, Ishreo, man to his friend, umatanot le'evyonim, and gifts to the poor. So let's pay close attention. Mishloach manot means sending gifts, plural. Manot, ishlere'ehu, to a man to his friend. That means, as we'll see in the Gemara, plural gifts. Ishlere'ehu, to one friend. Umatanot, and plural gifts, again, le'evyonim, to plural poor people. And I will see exactly how that plays out. Tani Rav Yosef taught, Mushlach manot ish l're'eu, and sending gifts man to their friend. Shtei manot l'ish echad, two gifts l'ish echad. Why? Because the singular man should have been umishloach mana ish l're'eu. From the fact that it says mishlach manot ish l're'eu, you understand that you have to give plural gifts to one person, which means two objects of food, two prepared food objects to that person. Umatanot le'evyonim, and plural gifts to plural people, shte matanot, two gifts, l'shnei bnei adam, two different people, which means two gifts to two people means one gift per person, because you could not say umatana le'evyonim. That would not make sense. So therefore, matanot doesn't mean that you have to give two poor people two gifts each, because there would be no way to prove that from the plural language. Because even if you gave one gift to two people, the correct way of saying that would be matanot le'evyonim. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah, Rabbi Yehuda, the leader, he sent Shaddai le Reb Oshia, he sent him itme de igla tilta, he sent him a thigh of a calf that was the third born, tilta. We have this many times in the Gemara where we talk about this tilta, the third born to the mother. Now, I don't know enough about meat, but evidently the choicest meat was the third one that was born to the mother, perhaps, or the way it developed, perhaps, whatever the case might be. But that was considered to be a delicacy. It was considered to be the proper thing. In fact, we have in the laws of Shabbat, where it talks about, I believe it was Rav Chizda, that prepared this idea of igla tilta for the Shabbat. So, he sent them this thigh from the igla tilta, that was born third to the mother, garva dichamra, and he sent him as well a bottle of wine. We'll see in a minute why it's specifying how much wine he sent him. So he sent him this beautiful mishlach manot. I think that's a great mishlach manot, right? Salach, he sent him back. Kiyamta barabenu, Rabbi, by doing this, Kiyamta banu, you've fulfilled the mitzvah of mishlach manot ish l're'eu, because you sent me two things. The Gemara's chidush over here is to tell you that he sent him, number one, a piece of meat, good, but he also sent him a drink of wine. Who said that you're allowed to send a food object and a drink object? Maybe you have to send two food objects. So the chidush in mishlach manot is that he was saying, Rabbi, you fulfilled the mitzvah of mishlach manot with one food item and one drink item. There's a big machloket over here if the second part of what he said, umatalot le'evyonim, is actually the girsa that the Gemara had or not. Was he saying that he was fulfilled matalot le'evyonim or not? And there's lots of ramifications for whether or not he said matalot le'evyonim or not. Just imagine, again, we're not going to get into it at this stage, we'll get into it later, but just imagine that the Gemara is telling you that he said you fulfilled mishlach manot and matalot le'evyonim. Could you fulfill matanot le'evyonim by giving a poor person mishlach manot? Is it a double dip item? Is that what he's telling us? See?
We know it's no.
So massive difference if the Girsa says that you fulfilled Mishlach Manot and Matanot Levyonim. Because if so, not only is he telling you a chidush about the fact that you could use a wine or a drink or whatever, he's also telling you the 2 birds, 1 stone item. But most of the opinions actually delete this from the category, from the nusach, from the description of the Gemara. But at the very least, Mishloach Manot. Now, by the way, they would fit as well because the Gemara started by saying, Rabbi Yosef says, Mishloach Manot ish l're'ehu. What is it?
What's l're'ehu mean?
Re'ehu means to his friend.
Right, so the poor guy's not his friend.
Re'ehu means any Jew. V'hafta l're'acha means any Jew. Okay? So Mishloach Manot ish l're'ehu. And then the Gemara, on the back of the definition of Mishloach Manot ish l're'ehu, gives us this story. So we didn't really yet get to Matanot Le'evyonim as a sugya, one might argue. Okay? So again, different opinions one way or the other, but at the very least, Mishloach Manot, we understand that this is what he was saying. Yes?
He's saying usually there's some sort of assumption that the Gemara expects us to have based on a sugya that came before, but because we didn't talk about it, it's sort of open-ended.
Because we did not yet get to Matanot Le'evyonim, so it would make sense that we're not yet giving you that halakha. Right. Exactly.
What does Girsa mean?
Girsa means the text itself. Okay? So Girsa means a version of the text. Literally, Girsa means version. So as an example, even till today, when you have a Microsoft Doc, Google Doc, and it's shared between 2 people, and I have one, and then he corrects it, and he corrects it, it will say, this, Girsa Aleph, Girsa Bet, version 1, version 2. Okay? So Girsa is the version of the text of the Gemara. Track changes, exactly.
You're saying we didn't cover Matanot Le'evyonim as a whole right now yet?
Yes, so it would make sense that the Girsa over here was only teaching us that halakha. Now the other opinion...
Then why did he just throw it out that it covers Matanot Le'evyonim?
So that Girsa does not have those words in it. You understand? There's one version of this text that only says you fulfilled the mitzvah uv'shmloach manot ish l're'ehu. Now, by the way, there's even a way of including those words in the text and still having it not refer to Matanot Le'evyonim. Because really, what was he doing? He was just quoting the pasuk. You fulfilled the mitzvah that it says in the pasuk, u'mishloach manot ish l're'ehu u'matanot le'evyonim. That's the end of that pasuk. In the pasuk itself, those are the words that come after. But he only really meant the first part. Okay? Let's carry on. The Gemara continues. Rabba shadalei lemari bar mar. Rabba sent to Mari bar mar biyad Abaye, in the hands of Abaye. Abaye was a student of Rabba, okay? And he sent his student with the Mishloach Manot to this other person. By the way, just round the back, we're learning a very interesting bit here. So already this is the second time that we're seeing a similar concept. What did it say before? Rabbi Yehuda Nesi'ah, turn back to the bottom of the page before. Rabbi Yehuda Nesi'ah, Shadarle Rabbi Yoshia. He sent it to him. Shadarle, he sent it. Now what are we reading? Rabba Shadarle Lemari Barmar. He sent it to him.
Sent it with him?
Biyad Abaye. He sent it to him in the hands of Abaye. Right? It doesn't say he gave it to him. The word for Mishloach Manot is not giving Manot. Shloach Manot. To send your Mishloach Manot.
You can send it with somebody.
It's built. No, but it's not that you can. The ideal way to do Mishloach Manot is, let's say it's me and you in the room. I want to give him Mishloach Manot. I say, Avi, could you be my messenger to give him Mishloach Manot? Because you're supposed to send it and not give it. So you see that in both stories, we're coming with this idea, Shadarle.
Why is it the word Shadar, not Lishloach?
Shadar is the Aramaic way of saying the word Lishloach. Okay? Now, he sends him Mila Taska de Kashba. He sends him a basket of dates. Mele Kasa Kimcha Davshuna. He also sends him a cup filled with flour from wheat that was roasted. Now, why did he send him? Why does the Gemara specify this? You'll see in a minute that it makes a difference how the flour was ground. If it was ground prior to the roasting or after the roasting. If you if you send it if you send it after the roasting, there's a sweetness to the flour. Okay, If you send it before, then there isn't a sweetness to the flour. In this case, he wound up sending him two things, dates and sweetened flour. Okay? Amar le Abaye. Again, we're learning halachot on the fly. Because generally, what does one assume? You have to send for mishlach manot, items, but items that are prepared for eating. Can you eat flour? No. So we're also learning in the halachot of mishlach manot that you could send him an item that can be made into a food, even if the object is not made already. Okay? Carry on. Amar le Abaye. Abaye said to Rabbah. Abaye is going to be the peanut gallery here. Hashta Amar Mari. When I get to him, you know what Mari is going to tell me? Ichakla malka lehevi. If you have a farmer that becomes a king, dikula mitzavare lo nachit. Does he not take off the feeding basket from his neck? Right? When you're a farmer, you walk around feeding the animals. So you have the feeding basket on with you, and you're always feeding the animals. Right? But when you become the king, you take the feeding basket off. You're no longer feeding animals. Now you're dealing with royalty. Can't feed them, grain or whatever it was that you were feeding the animals. So look at what you gave. You're now such an important person. You became the leader of all of the people in the Golan, in the community of Pumbedisa, which was the largest community, or one of the largest communities in Bavel, in Galut. You're now the head of the Galut. You're a king, and you're giving something that is not appropriate to your station. Hadar Shadar Le'ihu. He went to Mar. By the way, Rabbah, he didn't take the words of Abaye seriously. He didn't change his gift. He left it. Hadar Shadar Le'ihu. He comes back from Mari Bar Mar, Maleh Taska de Zangbila, with a basket full of ginger, Maleh Kasa, and a cup full de Pilpal Ta'aricha, and a cup with long peppers. Two items, okay, that are, again, simple, but they're different in their nature. Amar Abaye said, Hashta Amar Mar, now Mar will say, Rabbah is going to say on the gift of Mari Bar Mar, Ana Shadrile Chulia, I sent him something sweet, you Shadile Churfa, and he sent me back something which is bitter. Or sharp. What are we learning from this conversation? And by the way, Rabbah and Mari Bar Mar, we have no evidence that they said anything. All we have is the imagined conversation in the mind of Abaye. What each one would say about the other's gift. Interesting, right? Okay, we'll come back to this in just a bit. The Gemara continues. We're not done with the story. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Ki nafki mi be'emar, when I left the house of Rabbah, have savan, I was very, very full. Ki matai lahatam, when I got to the house of Mari Bar Mar, krivulu shitin tzai de shitin mine kedera. They brought me 60 different types of different foods. Ve'achli bushitin peligi, and I ate from each one, I ate a piece, a little bit. Ubishula batraita, and the last one that I was served, was a certain type of roasted dish. And when I finished eating that, I wanted to eat the actual dish itself. Amar Abaye. Abaye said, Hainu de Mari, Hainu de Amri Inchi, this is what people say, Kafin Anya Velayada, a poor person who's starving, he still doesn't know that he's hungry. Inami, or another way of understanding the story, what happened with my hunger and then my eating afterwards is Rafcha Lechsima Shechiach. Lechsima Shechiach. When a person, even after they eat, there's always room to have, there's always room for dessert, we say. There's always room for some sweetness after the meal. Now, okay, our commentators already explained that Abaye was not talking about food. The whole conversation is not about food. What was he talking about? He'd studied Rabbah. Rabbah was his teacher. He learned everything from his rabbi. He gets to the other rabbi. The rabbi sits down with him and they learn. 60, there's a number that we have. 60 represents the books of the tractates of the Talmud. So there was many different masechtot. He learned a bite from each of them. He learned a little bit from Mari Bar Mar, and he was able to see that there was something that he did not yet know. Finally, it comes to tzli kader, right? Which is the refers to something which is eaten roasted. What does that mean? Everybody knows. There's one object that has to be eaten only tzali. Ena ne'echal ela tzali. What is that? That's the Korban Pesach. And he said he wanted to eat more. He wanted to eat, not only did he want to eat, take a bite from the dish, but he wanted to learn the whole thing. Now remember, if this happened, when did the story happen?
Before Pesach.
When specifically?
After the destruction of the temple?
No, when specifically?
30 days.
Why did he go to Mari Barmar?
To bring him Mishlach
Mishlach Manot, it's on Purim.
Between Purim and Pesach.
So Purim is exactly how long before Pesach? Exactly 30 days. What's the halacha? 30 days before the holiday we learn the halachot of that holiday. So he taught him on Slika there. He had a bite. He wanted to learn everything that he could from the rabbi because that was the beginning day of 30 days before Pesach. Okay? Now, the only interesting thing here to me is that Abaye is really giving now two different interesting possibilities about why he felt the way he felt when he left and why he felt the way he felt when he arrived at Mari Barmar. One reason is he sat there and he felt at that point in time, saveh, like he was full, he ate everything. Why did he feel that way? And why did he feel afterwards like he had more to eat? What was the reason? What was the pirush in how he felt?
It's like an endless.
So he
gap.
gives
You don't
two
know, you
reasons.
don't know.
Look, excellent. So the first reason is you don't know that you don't know until you know it. Right? You guys, did you know you loved Gemara until you learned Gemara? No, you did not know that you needed this in your life.
It's like
We
sweets.
knew we
Now,
You need more.
okay, right? So a poor person doesn't know he's hungry until, you know why? Because his hunger is not presented with an option to fill that hunger. So he doesn't think about it. He tries to avoid thinking about it. So number one, a poor person doesn't know that he's hungry. Okay? The second thing is, no, a poor person knows that he's hungry. And not only does he know he's hungry, he's actually full. And Abaye actually was missing nothing. But there's always room for sweetness. There's always room for something more. Now, to me, it's just interesting, this second opinion. Why? Can anyone tell me why?
Because all of Torah is supposed to be sweet.
No. Something that we just learned.
We just learned about sending a sweet gift and a bitter gift
And who did he get the sweet gift from?
from his rabbi.
Rabbah. Who did he get the bitter gift from?
His student.
Mari, not a student. Mari Barmar, the second rabbi. So in the example that there's always room for something sweet, it's flipped.
It should be from his teacher.
Why? Because
Because
who gave the sweet item?
the teacher.
The teacher.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not following the whole sweet and bitter thing yet.
The first part.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to get to. First, I want you to notice that the Gemara says that one of the possibilities that Abaye felt that why am I loving this so much? Not because I was missing. Where have you been all my life? That's the first pshat. The second pshat is no. I learned everything from my rabbi. But you know what? When it comes to one more drop of Torah, the Torah is so sweet that there's always room for more. The Midrash gives an example of a fish that lives in the ocean. The Jewish people are compared to that fish. One reason why we compare Jewish people to fish is because of ayin hara. V'yidgu larov b'kerev haaretz. The fish, you can't see them. They're under the radar. They're under the water. There's no ayin hara sholet in them. But the other reason the Midrash gives is a fish is sitting in an ocean of water. What happens? Ask a fisherman. Best time to fish is when? When it's raining.
Oh, rain, yeah.
Also rain. Also early morning, also rain. Why? The fish come
I'm
up.
up for the air bubbles.
Dib. All you can't drink this water if you lived your whole life. You want to go get. He says that's the Jewish people. They're swimming in the Yam Shel Talmud. There's so much, but someone comes give you a Dvar Torah. You're like, wow, Rabbi, love it. You want to grab one more drop, even though you're sitting in a full ocean. So the second idea is Torah is so sweet that even if Rabbah had prepared Abaye properly, there was something new to be able to learn here. And the question is, though, if that example is sweetness, the sweetness previously was coming from Rabbah and not from Mari Barmar. My friends, I want to share something I think is beautiful. Oh, this is so gorgeous. If you don't feel that this is sweetness, this dessert, I'm going to punch you. You go to a rabbi, ask the rabbi what the halakha is. You're the beginning of your journey. Tells you, look, you can't do this, you got to do this, you have to go there, you got to go pray 3 times. Bitter. What happens after you're 2 years in, and you go to the rabbi, and the rabbi says, look, you're allowed to rely. Tell me, Rabbi, don't tell me what's the halakha. Tell me what I have to do, I want to do it. When a person starts learning, they're not ready yet for the hardcore item. They're not ready for the law, they need the sweet. When you start, you need the sweet. In fact, when they started teaching children the Torah, one of the customs is they would bring him to the rabbi. The rabbi would show them the aleph. He would put, I remember, my upsharon, they would put little honey on the letters, and the kid would lick the letters. What's this letter? Aleph. What's this letter? To make the letters of Torah sweet. When you teach Torah, it has to be sweet. The kid has to be ready to be able to learn it. So who's Abaye's first rabbi? Rabba. So Rabba's Torah is sweet. Now he goes to the second rabbi. And what is he giving him? Bitter. But how does he relate to the bitter after having studied already? Sweet.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Interesting.
You're sitting in Gemara class. You're sitting in a Gemara class first. The worst time of your life. But you sit through enough classes on Torah, eventually, you know what? You have the patience to sit, to appreciate. You know what? There's something I don't know. Let me see. Let me learn. Let me extend myself. It's a little hard. I have to focus. I just came back from work. But now it's sweet. Unbelievable. That's what Abaye is teaching us over here with the sweet and the bitter. And that's how we bring in the first part of the Gemara into the second part of the Gemara.
Amazing.
No punching necessary. Fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Let's go. The Gemara continues. Abaye bar Avin. Abaye, the student, the son of Avin. Rabbi Chia bar Avin. These two people, Abaye bar Avin and Rabbi Chanina bar Avin. Mechalfi seudatayu lahadadi. What would they do? Each one, they would make the whole Purim seudah. Then they would pick up the seudah and they give it to the other guy. And the other guy would take his Purim seudah and he would give it to you. Now, why? The reason is because they were poor people. But they would switch their actual seudah, one with the other and the other with the one, and that's how they mikayem mishloach manot. A poor person has an obligation to do mishloach manot. What is he supposed to do? He doesn't have a dime. The answer is, whatever food you got, yeah. And this, my friends, is the Talmudic source for regifting mishloach manot. Okay, let's go. Amar Rava. That was on the spot, by the way. Amar Rava. Rava says legit, by the way. I did not, to answer your question, Ethan, I did not prepare that. Amar Rava. Rava says, Mechayiv inish lebesume bepuraya. A person is obligated to become intoxicated, to become drunk on Purim with wine. Ad delo yada ben Arur Haman le Baruch Mordechai, until he cannot tell the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai. Now, let's just try and understand what that means, okay? Let me ask you. I want you to imagine that I told you that listen, Rohi, you need to drink wine. And the guy's like, I drank wine already, had you? You're not enough. Let me test you. I want to see if you're drunk enough. Could you tell the difference between Hitler, and Ham Yaakov Kassim?
There's no amount of drunk that can
Yeah.
do that.
No amount of drunk.
Exactly.
Now, we're forgetting Haman is like this mythical fairy tale creature in our lives that we play dress up and this. And he has a tri-cornered hat just to make it more ridiculous, right? But we're forgetting the guy wanted to wipe out the Jewish people, men, women, and children. Biyom echad. He was worse than Hitler, worse than Paro. We have never had an anti-Semitic enemy as great as Haman. Never. Not one time in the history of the Jewish people. You want to tell me I have to drink enough to forget the difference between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordechai, the greatest sage of the Jewish people, the sage that saved all the Jewish people's lives? How could I get that drunk? So there's many different interpretations to this halakha. Now, what I want you to understand is, this is one example where the different divrei Torah that you hear actually have a halachic ramification. I want to share with you the words of the Magen Avraham. The Magen Avraham says as follows. Let's take a look. Arur Haman. Aleph, 1. Resh, 200. Vav, 6. Resh, 200. How much we got so far? 407. Okay? Haman. Hey is 5. Mem, 40. Nun, 50. 95 and 407 is 502. Beautiful. Baruch Mordechai. Bet, 2. Resh, 200. Vav, 6. Chaf, 20. What do we got?
228.
228, Baruch. Mordechai, Mem, 40. Resh, 200. Dalid, 4. Chaf, 20. Yud, 10. 274. 274? Yeah? Is that right?
I mean, I was
274 plus 228, 502. Says the Magen Avraham, until the person can't tell the difference between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai, when you lose the ability to calculate the gematriot, to see if they're equivalent in your head, you're already off.
Okay.
By the way, that's like 1 cup of wine. The tiniest bit of tipsy.
I don't even have to drink.
By the way,
You don't have to drink.
bizarre, we're doing it now. We're barely able to keep up now.
But if that's the case, then why even say that? If we could barely keep up now.
Sorry?
We could barely keep up now, and it's such a low threshold. Why even say it?
Because this generation is the first generation in history that had such a low attention span that we couldn't even follow a tally of numbers. And you know why, by the way? And you know why? You know why? You tell me if you know the phone number of everyone in your family. That is insanity. When we were children, okay, before cell phones, I knew the number not only of my family, of every one of my friends, of my grandparents, of mild associates. I knew the phone number of the pizza shop, you know everybody's phone number. You know why? Because you had to.
You have no choice.
The minute you could outsource phone numbers, what happens? Your brain literally, by the way, to such a degree that if someone gives you the phone number, you can't remember the number 2 minutes later.
Right.
How'd that happen? The answer is your brain is conserving space for things it needs to. Once we got a calculator on the phone, math went out the door. So these things, they happen. The brain does it. It's trying to conserve, your brain cells for something more important. Like Wordle.
More necessary.
That meant that you couldn't remember the saying or the poem, whatever you call it. Arur Haman.
It says ad lo yada ben. So it has to be that you can't tell the difference between, let me take that back. It doesn't say that you can't tell the difference between. It says that you don't know between Arur Haman and Baruch Mordechai. That's the Magen Avraham. I would say the Magen Avraham's level would be the lowest level of intoxication required. Okay? Lowest level. Rama actually writes, halacha for Ashkenazim. Rama says that you could have a drink of wine and take a nap.
We don't follow Rama.
We do not follow
I
Rama.
sent the WhatsApp.
By the way, I think the reason why we don't follow Rama is because of this halakha. We're like, what? That little wine, we're out.
You mean
Okay?
Sephardim or you mean everybody?
I mean Sfaradim. Okay? Sfaradim do not follow this Rama. But Rama writes that if you have a drink and then you take a nap, when you take a nap, are you able to tell the difference between Haman and Mordecai? No, you're not conscious. So therefore, that would be enough to be able to fulfill your obligation of Arur Haman Baruch Mordechai. Are you guys ready? Okay, because this is one of those examples when you have all these different opinions. Now, next level is, simple understanding is, like I said earlier, can't tell the difference. My son, by the way, on the holiday kept testing me. God bless him.
For counts.
For Arur Haman, not for the count.
Oh, no, he just said, you know the
Not
difference?
saying,
Like-
can
Yeah, like, you know the difference? You know the difference? Haman Mordechai? Who's Arur? Who's Baruch? Which one cursed? Which one blessed? Till eventually I got to the point. And there are points, most Purims, there are points I don't remember.
it's healthy.
It's healthy, by the way, because you have to see what happens when I get to that stage. I give brachot, I make jokes,
This was before or
and I
after?
say divrei Torah.
This was before or after the Pidyon?
Way after.
Right?
Way after.
You do all those things even when you're
No, another level. Another level.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you an example. Someone came to me after Purim. He said, Rabbi, what did you give your bracha to my daughter? I said, why? What are you asking? He goes, my daughter came. She says, I don't understand. I sat next to Rabbi before I asked him for bracha. He gave me bracha, and he was telling me about things that there's no one in the world that knows about, including you, Daddy. I've never told anyone.
Oh my God.
How did he know? Impossible. She's flipping out.
Wow, so you
I said,
Kabbalistic tendencies.
I said only when I'm drunk like that.
yeah.
Anyway, I said
Should be drunk
I
all
said
the
to
time.
Morris, I said, say to your daughter, tell your daughter that her secret is safe, because even I don't remember what it was. So no problem. But that, by the way, happens all the time on Purim specifically. I used to give to me. I used to give only berachot on Purim. I did not feel worthy any other day of the year before I got such strong musar from someone. So then I started giving brachot during the year. Not as a rabbi or worthy, I don't think I'm worthy, but as a person that teaches Torah to people that have not learned Torah from their parents or do not have Torah, the Gemara says Mezakeh Rabim. And the person said, how could you hold back beracha, even if you're not worthy, even if you're not a tzaddik, and if you're not a rabbi, if you're Mezakeh Rabim, the Gemara says, Kefiti yeh, that a person's able to undo gezerot. That's what it says. Kefiti yeh, God says, you have the power of my mouth. Amen. I make a gizeran shamayim, and you could undo it. He says, he said to me, if you could, just by saying something, maybe undo someone's suffering or someone's pain, How could you not take that chance?
Who said this?
It was
Steve?
such strong musar. I don't want to say.
Oh.
Okay, so I said fine. From then on, if someone asks me, I say no problem. I give bracha.
Coming to you
But
next year.
all right, let's go.
You blew it, Morris.
All right. And by the way, and you, I know you. I
On
know.
the invitation.
I know him. By the way, I know him because he comes with enough wine for us to be mekayim all the opinions. Okay. Now here's a beautiful a connection to Gemara. Why? Because we just learned all these different opinions from blackout drunk, okay, to having the tiniest sip of wine and then taking a nap. Let's see the next Gemara, and you tell me what the Gemara seems like. Rabba and Rabbi Zera avdu Seudat Purim b'hadeh hadadi. They did Seudat Purim together. Ivsum, they became drunk. Okay? Kam Rabba shachte le Rabbi Zera. Rabba got up and he killed Rabbi Zera. Lemachar bai rachame. The next day, Rabba prayed for him, v'ahayeh, and he brought him back from the dead.
1 day later.
Whoa.
Yeah, next morning.
Wild, right?
Whoa.
Lishana Amarle, the next year, he said, Neti Maven Avid Sudat Purim B'Hadei Hadadi. Let's do Purim together. Amarle, I have other plans. Lo bechol shata v'shata mitrachi shnisa. You can't rely that in every hour a miracle is going to happen. I'm scared to have Purim together with you. Now you tell me if that sounds like the Magen Avraham.
No.
La. Now there's many interpretations in this Gemara. But we know, the Chachamim tell us, that many of the Amoraim and the Tanaim were able to do Techiyat HaMetim.
Yeah.
Oh, 1 second. He murdered him?
Killed him.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Dead.
But he was
Let out.
big
Let
time
out.
sin there.
Dead.
Yeah, but
But he's drunk.
the
Complete.
commentary is not literal.
How level drunk is he?
1 second.
Yes.
How could somebody, after killing somebody, then have the ability as a tzaddik to undo that?
He did Techiyat HaMetim.
Next
That's
day.
my
So,
question.
But how could
So
he?
he-
Because he
How
was
could
so
he?
What do you mean?
drunk, therefore he
No, the
wasn't.
next day.
The next day.
I understand, but what I'm saying is murder is murder.
Yeah.
Whether
Yes.
he's drunk or not.
No, not really.
No?
Actually, no. Ask a lawyer. If somebody is literally not in their mental capacities,
They're off the
and
hook.
we could absolutely ascertain.
Halakha too?
Correct me
Not
if
if
I'm
you
wrong.
drove
In
a drive
France,
and
you kill
correct me if I'm wrong. In France, a pregnant woman who murders her husband until today is off the hook.
So remember, in France, you had in the south, and I believe in Marseille, they had a guy who murdered a Jewish woman, and they said he was on drugs, and they let him off the hook.
Yeah, just recently, actually.
But in America, intoxication, DUI is not a defense to killing
To
someone.
manslaughter.
So if you're literally, and it's demonstrable that the guy is completely out of it.
Doesn't matter.
That's amazing to me.
Not in America.
Because in America, they could let you off for insanity and crimes of passion, and they won't let you off for not actually being present
But
mentally.
You did it to yourself.
Yeah, but you
I understand.
You got into the
But
car.
but
and
crimes
you-
of passion, as an
But
example,
what he's saying
you know,
is you're doing
Crimes of
something
passion
illicit to
called
begin with.
manslaughter.
so it degrades the act of
degrades
murder
murder, yes.
to manslaughter. And would it also do an intoxication? Would it degrade it, or would it still be the highest one?
Intoxication is not necessarily murder. It could be manslaughter.
So I'm saying the same point. So again, it would diminish from the highest level of wrongdoing. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm giving you on the first level, the simple explanation of the Gemara, is because again, simply what the Gemara says is straight. Lebahar ba'i rahame ve'ahyeh. That's literally what it says. Now, are there interpretations of the Gemara? Absolutely. But we learn this Gemara lehalacha that if a person does damage on Purim whilst drunk, patur.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to
Why?
swallow.
Why? Because you both asked a very good question. What do you mean? You did it to yourself. Yes. But if we hold that a person has an obligation to get that way on Purim, I had to do that.
Right.
It doesn't have an
Understand?
obligation to-
So it's not that you had no.
You had an obligation to drink.
You had an obligation to drink, to get drunk.
That doesn't give you carte
Now hold
blanche
on.
to do whatever you wanna
Hold
do.
on. Ready for me? Ready for me?
Also a good point.
I'm coming for you like a freight train.
Uh-oh. No punches though.
Let's go with the Magen Avraham now. The only chiyuv was to have this much.
Can't kill.
Okay.
That could never get you to that next stage, which means that the next stage, who did that to you? You did that to you. According to the Ramah, you did that to you. It would only be according to the more stringent opinion of what Lo Yada ben Arur Haman le Baruch Mordechai means, that this Gemara would actually work on any level,
Okay.
whatever the interpretation is.
He was Sephardic.
Exactly. So either way, the other opinions are, there's many other opinions as to how to understand this Gemara. Okay?
He can damage himself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But,
That happens all the time.
all the time.
Every year.
Unfortunately, happens all the
Every
time.
year.
Now, by the way, if a person knows on themselves that they don't know their limits, etc., then he shouldn't get drunk.
What happens if a guy comes to your house and gets drunk?
Yeah.
And you know he's driving home.
Confiscate his keys.
Can't let him.
Yeah, but what if you're drunk? You're not thinking about
Right.
it.
Have your wife confiscate both of your keys.
No, do you tell people that come to your house you can't drive?
Yeah.
If I'm corpus mentis enough, absolutely.
Yeah. Drop your keys in a bucket.
You're inviting people to your house.
Yeah.
Morris,
Yeah, but
come
that
to my
goes-
house.
That goes with parties.
You
can't-
got to take an
you can't
Uber or
bring-
walk.
But that
Yeah.
goes with like parties
Yeah.
also. You want
Sure.
people. You
do you
assume
mean?
that people are going to come and be responsible and not drive there. You can't.
Anybody?
Like,
By the way,
45
we should do that with the city. We should lobby the city that the night there should be no tickets on the evening of Purim till the next night
For parking.
to encourage people to leave their cars wherever it is.
Guy 45, 50 years old
what
for a
about- what
colonoscopy.
about,
They don't let you drive. You have to have someone
just
bring
the
you, or they don't
Marine
do the
and,
procedure because they won't let you leave
and
alone.
for the
Well, you lied
So,
to them.
so
You said
Stanley's
yes.
asking a great question.
Okay, but I'm saying Purim, same
Stanley's
thing.
asking a good question. What about Marit Ayin? People are looking, they see the person this way, etc., etc. What's very interesting is that we have an incorrect interpretation of the words Marit Ayin. Marit Ayin means when you're doing something you're not supposed to do, not when I'm doing something that another person thinks I'm not supposed to do.
Well, if you get
If
drunk,
that's halakha, there's no Marit Ayin ever to doing a halakha. Marit Ayin is only to not doing the
So then,
halakha.
Chilul Hashem.
Even Chilul Hashem.
So 1 second. If,
There's no Chilul Hashem in listening to the word of Hashem.
you drink
So
a lot.
if someone
Stan,
else is
But what I'm
misinterpreting
saying-
it, it's
and
on
then
them.
you do
It's their
something
issue.
bad on the street.
yeah, well, okay. We
But you
we
can't
all
control
get-
yourself.
I don't think I ever learned that.
Purim Siyum here, we all get blasted. We walk outside the shul, and I break Hermes's window. Guy, this guy, what a Jew. How is that? I don't know. I have a problem with that.
I get that you have a problem with it, and
No, what
probably
I'm saying is if they tell
probably-
you all the way to the point where one of the greatest tzaddikim is going to murder somebody.
if
I can-
1
So
minute,
that's why he
Hold on.
You die with him the next year, and that's why you probably shouldn't drink.
probably that's what Rabbi Zera was saying to Rabbah,
Yeah.
that you can't rely that things are going to be okay again. So look, this happened. We're not going to go down the same
It's a
path.
lesson of what not to do.
We're not going to come back with the
Don't
same.
drink.
We're not going to come back. Can't do that.
That's why he said, I'm not going to have Suda with you next year
Right.
because
Yeah, you
so if
understand?
you go out and break Hermes's window, then
The
next year you're not
outcome is
drinking.
not
Still.
guaranteed.
Now,
But
now.
that doesn't answer his
Next year
question.
you're the designated
You're
driver.
out.
But that doesn't answer his question. It's still a Chilul Hashem.
So no, 1 minute.
If
1
I'm
minute.
throwing
1
it
minute.
Outside of Safra,
When you know that that's what's going to happen, then that's a chilul Hashem. You know you can't. If you're a person that can't hold it, then the person has to know ahead of time.
So that's why
Until you've learned.
next year, don't drink.
Sorry.
I don't get
Once you learn.
intoxicated enough to know if I can hold it or not.
So there's
Yeah.
anyone who knows me. Anyone who knows me will know.
you get a winner pass.
Anyone who knows me will know that there is never a time, not once in the entire year, when you will ever see me drunk. Never. And I can drink and I can hold my liquor. The only time is Purim. Not even Simchat Torah. Nothing.
How many drinks get you over the top?
As many as it doesn't. On Purim, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how many on Purim.
How many
But
do you have?
Too many.
however many I need. But when it comes to the rest of the year, no matter how much I drink,
You're in control.
completely
Because you
always.
stop at a certain point. You say
No, I have a big I don't know what I have tolerance. I know when to stop. I know my limits subconsciously, whatever. But I'm able to keep control even on Purim. Now, by the way, if I experienced or if I felt that, as an example, as a rabbi, let's say as an example, 1 year I stood up on my chair, I started cursing, screaming at someone, making them feel bad. I would never drink and get drunk on Purim ever again. Why? Because then I'm in the Reb Zera court.
Category, yeah.
But the Gemara is telling us that in the first place. Now, if Rabbi Zera knew that Rabbah had that kind of a reputation, he wouldn't have had to sit with him in the first place. So this is a first-time deal for Rabbah too. And what seems to me from the Gemara is that the reason why this happened is because they were together with each other, and there was this tremendous simcha, and there was more and more and more. That's why it happened.
Off of each other.
Yeah, yeah.
I just can't believe like someone could get off the hook and be able to do Tefillat Matim after murdering somebody, even if they're drunk.
So
It's a wild concept.
yeah,
It's an
yeah.
adventure.
It's a wild
Yeah,
concept.
you
I
have,
hear you, but it's
Wait a
still
minute,
Yeah.
when you're a
responsible for-
tzaddik of that level.
You have to
right, you gotta
recognize-
imagine there's a level of purity where you don't even come close to murder.
one
right?
second, Stanley. One of the things that made him that tzaddik is that he fulfilled that mitzvah.
By killing somebody?
The
No,
first
the
mitzvah.
Adil
The Adil lo yada. The Adil lo yada. Now that is the level. That is the level.
But isn't there?
Yeah, you know what the problem? You know what my
Rabbi,
guys? You're missing
Rabbi,
one
isn't
point.
there something that
You're missing one
you
point. Wait.
defeat
Yeah.
You're defeating
The purpose?
the purpose of the mitzvah by doing something malicious.
You say- the murder
After
David
you
in
know
the
that, yes. After you know that,
Move
yes.
forward, but that
before,
first time, you
is
didn't
not
know.
that way. Now let me give you again. I want to
I
give you
want
one
you
thing.
to- I
Wait,
want
wait,
you
wait.
to see-
Hold on. I want because I think you're missing this one part of the point, and this is the part of the point. The part of the point where we think that we get to establish what is moral over halacha or over God. That's the bit that we're missing. So, as an example, imagine all of us sitting there. Avraham passes by with Yitzhak Akedah, and we're all like, "I thought the guy was a tzaddik. Hailul Hashem, what's going on over here? Can't believe it." That's us right now.
But that's before the fact that it happened. This is after the fact.
Now,
that it happened.
if you said to me, I find it difficult to believe that this is how we learn the mitzvah, and I feel like we should learn the mitzvah according to this opinion, because it's a little bit hard for me to understand how that's different. But that's not how we're speaking. So we got to kind of recognize and remember that, one second, we're learning here the halachot. The same Torah that taught us what Chilul Hashem is, what it means to be upstanding,
Telling you.
that's where it comes
Well,
from.
no, I'm saying in the sense that I'm having a hard time believing that the halakha could be that it should be that level because of the potential ramifications.
Excellent. So now that's a different concept. You see?
Yes,
That's
it's
a-
not clear. In the,
I'm getting us back in the lane.
Yeah.
Now that we're in the lane, so that we could say, look, there's different opinions, and I actually feel like this opinion is correct. And by the way, I say it all the time. I say to yeshiva boys, I say to yeshiva boys, yeah? I say to yeshiva boys, guys, there's all these different opinions. You chose the strictest one. What, you only follow the strictest opinion when it comes to getting drunk?
But the rest of the year,
The rest of the year, you follow the lenient,
Very
the
much.
most lenient opinion for the time of
Rabbi
Kiryat
David
Shema
Chitzky
every
for every
day.
fast.
The most lenient opinion for which tzitzit you wear during the day.
100%.
Most lenient opinion for how many hours you wait between meat and milk. And then strictest opinion for getting drunk. You're not following the strictest opinion. You're just an alcoholic. Okay? Musar and Purim. Exactly. So sometimes a person needs to kind of regulate. So Morris would like to share with us an alternate explanation of the Gemara. Go for it.
About what?
About what the Gemara is teaching us.
About Rabbi Zera?
Yes. What happened?
What happened? You want me to read the...
Are you read it already?
Yeah.
No? Okay, give it to us.
So what it says here is that we shouldn't take it literally. It's hyperbole. It could be the Gemara's use of hyperbole, and that what he's really saying is that he got very drunk and he hit his friend
Put
and
him to sleep,
and
and then
he
wake
may
him
have
up.
he may have caused critical injury to him. He may have done this to him, and he prayed for his recovery.
So it's like put him to sleep, you knock him out.
Knocked him
But
unconscious.
it literally says that he killed him.
No, I understand.
That's the problem.
That's
that's the
the
problem.
That's
There's that interpretation.
And it says
saying that it's
shachte and it says achye.
And it also says
And he says he revived him.
Yeah. Well, achye means literally he brought him back to life. Now, by the way, achye I don't have as much of a problem with,
By the way, you could argue
because if someone faints, sorry,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Same.
So if he knocked him out unconscious, so achye I don't have a problem.
Right, it's the
Shachte means he slaughtered him.
Slaughtered him.
Not a lot of room for interpretation.
Someone
Exactly.
said they hit him in the back of the neck like shechita.
Okay, so see what we're getting.
Can I ask you a question?
We're getting a little bit more like shachte means he hit it. He made him unconscious through he punched him in the throat.
It's all about
You
how
know?
you choose to interpret the word.
So the way I learn is a different way. The way I learn another
I
way.
don't even care about Esther being a green lizard.
I told you by the way.
What really happened?
Go hard or go home. Okay, hold on, guys. I want to give you one last piece. The last piece that I believe is that, in fact, the idea of shachte, okay, let's take the words that we use. Where else would you use, how else would you use, in our language, the word, this guy slaughtered the guy?
Like
Beat
beat
him
a
in
ball
the
game.
game.
How else? You killed him is the literal
Sports,
interpretation.
in a
No, in
sports
food,
competition, a
food.
ball game.
Sorry?
Shechita.
What do you mean with food?
To shech
So
an
that's
animal.
literal slaughtered, killed him. What other language, what other way do we use?
Competition.
Still today, sorry? Verbal, excellent. The guy stood up, they corrected me in the class, I slaughtered him. What does that mean? It means you took the guy apart, verbally. You decimated him. We actually use that word in the English language, right?
Or in a ball
So
game.
one of the ideas, or in a ball game, but they're not playing ball. One of the examples that the Mefarshim give is Shachte, that in his drunken nature, what did he do? He started speaking about Rabbi Zerah, but remember, who's Rabbah? The leader of the generation. He slaughtered Rabbi Zerah. He said things that was so critical because he was drunk. He picked him apart.
It's not a physical.
And Rabbi Zerah was humiliated, destroyed, killed him. The next day, Achye, when he regained his thing, he took everything that he said, not just apologized, and he turned those critical things, and he was able to turn that into something that was positive, that raised him back. Rabbi Zerah said to him, look, I'm ready to, I could come again, but the way you be able to rehabilitate my reputation, I can't risk that happening again.
Yeah.
We also know that humiliating.
Wait, let me finish, let me bring it home. I'm going to come back to you. Let me bring it home. And how do I know that interpretation of the Gemara fits? What do we just say the level you have to get drunk to is?
Can't understand.
When you say about Mordechai, Arur Mordechai.
Key.
What's the whole point? That you don't know the difference between Arur Haman.
Conflating things.
So what do? You said about a Sadiq, cursed is the Sadiq. Says the Gemara. You got me?
Raven.
Yeah.
You got my chidush?
Raven, that's off the
Is
cuff.
that a grand slam?
That's off the cuff, Dave.
Was that off?
That, off the cuff, yeah.
Beautiful.
That with words, he
That's
actually did physically kill him.
Yeah.
Because of the power of a Sadiq.
2 points. Number one, power of Sadiq, but then he's still dead.
Right.
So you still have your problem.
Yes, but it was with words.
It was with words,
Not with a
and
knife.
it wasn't with a knife.
And with a knife.
Okay, good. I like that.
Right.
So,
And by the way,
so
that's
Stanley,
mercy.
Stanley's giving chidush that he killed him with his words. Where do we have that in the Torah?
With the rain.
No, specifically killing someone with words.
Moshe.
Moshe Rabbeinu sees the guys
Right.
fighting. What does he do? Kills the Mitzri. Vayachet HaMitzri, says the pasuk. He hits the Mitzri. But then the next day, when he comes back and the two guys are fighting, and Moshe says, "What are you doing? Why are you hitting the guy?" The guy says, "Moshe, I remember what you did yesterday." Listen to the words he says. I know what you did last summer. How does he say it? Halehorgeni ata omer. Do you say to kill me? Now, normally we interpret it. It's your intent. What you want to kill me like you killed the other guy? Says the Chachamim. Halehorgeni ata omer, that he used the Shem HaMeforash, used God's name, and he killed a Misri.
I didn't know that.
So we have an example in the Torah of a man killing another man with words. And what does the pasuk say about it? It says not that he killed him with words, vayach. It uses a physical expression, like shachte, to use. So I have a proof to what Stanley's saying. So you have another opinion that he actually killed him with words. He used the kilalat tzaddik.
And that can go both ways. That could be he killed him with words with embarrassment, or actually killed him with words.
The last shot that we have over here is that the Gemara says.
Which Stanley said.
The Gemara says.
Humiliation.
What does the Gemara say?
Humiliating someone is like killing them.
What's the language of Chazal? Do you remember?
To whiten someone's face.
Someone who whitens the face of his friends is ki'ilu horgo, as if he killed him.
Wow.
Also a physical.
And the Gemara actually says,
As if he killed him.
Gemara says, brings a proof about this rabbi who was going to embarrass someone who was poor. We had it in Ta'anit. And what happened when he was going to embarrass the guy that was poor? The poor guy was going to see who was giving him tzedakah. And Mar Ukva runs away with his wife, and they jump into the baker's oven. And they're burning in the baker's oven. And his feet are burning the rabbi, and the rabbi, his wife says, stand on my feet because my feet are not burning. She stands on his feet, and his feet are saved.
He stands on her feet.
And he stands on her feet. He says, why? Because when you give the poor people, Karov haniyatam. You give them food. When I give them money. They have to go buy food. But your giving to the ani is even higher level than my giving. So that's why your feet are not even getting burned. However, but the Gemara learns from here, better to jump into a furnace of fire than embarrass someone. And the Gemara says why. Where do we learn that from? Because the pasuk tells us that one of the big three that you have to die rather than do is murder. And embarrassing someone is like murder. So you see how far the Gemara is understanding that there's an equivalence between embarrassing someone and killing them, to the point that we learn out that you need to physically die rather than metaphorically kill. You see how interchangeable the metaphorical and the literal are? Okay? However, I do not want, there's a beautiful expression that we use in the Gemara all the time, and that expression goes, "Ena mikra yotze midei peshuto." That means that the pasuk does not leave its literal interpretation. We have many different ideas in the Gemara, but the Gemara says it in a way which you could understand it to mean this. And the Gemara did that on purpose, so that we should learn this. And actually the halacha is that when a person does that damage, halacha l'ma'aseh, he's a drunk and by mistake he breaks a bench, the halacha is he's patur. That's the halacha. So it has to be that we're learning on a certain level that there's a literal element to this. And by the way, it's what's fascinating to me is that we learn in Baba Kama, when we get there, Be'ezat Hashem, as we learn Shas together, the Gemara in Baba Kama says what? Adam mu'ad le'olam. The human being is responsible always. When you have your cow, it gores. The first time I pay half price. Second time half price, tam. Third time half price. Fourth time, mu'ad. Now I have to pay full price. Why? You should have known you're responsible fully. But the Gemara says a cow is half mu'ad, is mu'ad after 3 times. A human being, always mu'ad. So much so, says the Gemara, what happens if you're asleep and you break something?
Wow. Sleepwalking.
Halacha is, you're a genius. Hold on. What happens if you break something when you're asleep? What's the halacha? Chayav.
Hayav?
Yeah.
I'm not even conscious.
Yeah, because if
Adam mu'ad le'olam. However, what's the reason why Yoshen, a person who's sleeping, is hayav and damages? Why'd you go to sleep next to a lamp if you're a guy who rolls over?
100%.
It's your fault. How about if I went to sleep here, no lamp? Some guy comes, puts the lamp next to me after I'm sleeping.
No, that's
Or I sleepwalk somewhere else.
right.
That's ones.
What's honest?
Honest means I didn't do it. I'm not responsible. Okay?
If you didn't move,
Why? Because there's nothing I could have done. There's nothing I could have done to make sure that not negligent. When it comes to Purim, since I don't have anything that's within the realm of me preparing, I would have an obligation.
I should give my keys to somebody before I start drinking.
And I'm not going back the next
More
year.
than him taking them away.
All right?
Right?
Now.
More than you taking away the guy's keys who comes to drink in your house, he should say, I get drunk, I know I can't drive, here's my keys before I start drinking.
Exactly. Exactly. Now the crazy thing is, my friends, maybe the way we'll understand Rabbi Zera is like, I can't rely on the miracle happening every year. Maybe he doesn't just mean, maybe you're not going to get another miracle. Maybe you don't get 2. Maybe you only get 1. Maybe what he's saying is, now that we know, God would never give you the power to do this miracle again. When it was first time up, so it was an accident, Hashem let you use your tzaddik power to bring it back. Honest. But year 2, Rabbi Zera said it won't work because there's a way for us to protect ourselves from it, in which case the miracle is not going to happen a second time. Let's finish to the Mishnah and be done.
Now we came full circle.
Amar Rava. Rava said, Seudat Purim she'achla b'layla. A person eats the Seudat Purim in the evening the night before. Lo yatsa yidei chovato. A person does not fulfill his obligation. My tama. What's the reason? The pasuk says specifically, Yemei mishteh v'simcha, days of feasting and joy. So it specifically says Yemei, which means days and not nights. The Gemara continues. Rav Ashi havi yativ kamed Rav Kana. Rav Ashi was sitting before Rav Kana. Naga velo atu Rabbanan. Slowly but surely, the sun goes down, and they're still not there. Okay, says the Gemara. Amale My time lo atura banan. How come the people, the rabbis, didn't get here yet? Dilma taride b'seudat purim. Maybe they're busy. They're still in the middle of seudat purim. Amalei, he said, v'lo have efshai lemicha beurta. What, they couldn't eat the seudah last night? How come they're not learning with us now? Amalei, he said, lo shmiya le lemar hada amar Rava. You didn't hear what Rava said. Seudat purim shachla belelu yatzei dechovato. That if you ate it at night, you didn't fulfill your obligation. Amalei, he said to him, Amalei. One opinion is, he said to him, is that what he said? The other opinion is that he answered him yes. But either way, the point is that he explained, either that he wasn't sure, or that he told it, or that he was sure and he said, Amalein. Yes, I did hear it. Tanamine arba'in zimnin. He learned it from him 40 times. Until it was, he would never forget it again. Now, the reason why I gave you those two different girsaot is because the question is, did he know it and never forget? So, Amaleh, did he say that? He said yes, which means that he never heard it. The other opinion is, did you not hear what Rava said? Amalein. The rabbi he was asking said, I did hear that. Yeah, and explaining, meaning, what happened? He forgot it. Now, when did he eat his Purim Suda? The night before. He could have ate it last night. And the minute he realized that he forgot it, what did he do? He learned it 40 times until it was in his pocket. From here we learn the importance, again, of chazara, because a person could learn something and still forget it. And until he learns it again and again and again and again and again, it's not as if it's in his pocket, accessible at all times. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.